ULTRAKILL is great, but the fans are, well, kind of annoying.
I get it!
And they never shut up about the game. And a lot of you seem to agree, because my last video highlighting FPS games that aren't ULTRAKILL did really well. Not just on YouTube, but also on Twitter. It got to a point where some indie FPS developers even reached out to me with copies of their own games that have been overshadowed by ULTRAKILL. And I thought, hey, why not make a follow-up video showcasing some more indie FPS games that are worth your time? Oh, and before I start, I made the mistake of not stating something that I should have stated in the original video. I will not be talking about, let me see my list here, Turbo Overkill or Cultic in this video, because neither of those are what I would consider underrated. A few people also mentioned Titanfall 2 for some reason. Not sure what's indie about that one, but the fans of that game are just as vocal as ULTRAKILL fans. What is it with movement shooters specifically having the most obnoxiously vocal fan bases? I can say that because I used to be one of them. Anyway, enough chatting shit. Let's get on to the first awesome FPS game that isn't ULTRAKILL. Ugh, shit, a ghost. I wonder where it came from. Perhaps the Arena of the Dead? Okay, I would usually do a cool opening montage to introduce the game, but I need to boot it up first. Give me a second. Okay, it's loading. It's taking a while. While we wait, you guys should definitely like and subscribe. Oh wait, never mind, it loaded. Ghostware Arena of the Dead is an arena shooter, which, I mean, is obvious. It's in the title. It's heavily inspired by the classic neglected child of Tim Sweeney, the Unreal games. May they rest in peace. These were some absolute classics. Forget about fucking X-Defiant or whatever slot people are playing today. This was the multiplayer craze back in the day. Awesome fast-paced arena shooters. You literally couldn't get any better than this. And Ghostware is exactly like them. You don't start matches with an arsenal of weapons. Aside from a starting pistol, you have to make an effort to locate the spawn locations for these weapons. And there's a nice variety that can be found around the maps, ranging from a shotgun that sounds absolutely meaty to a bubble gun. I like this gun. I literally have nothing negative to say about any of the arsenal within Ghostware. Even the weaker guns are still useful within combat, so yeah, I can't complain. With the fact you have to scrounge around at the start of each round to find weapons, you're actually pushed to learn the layout of maps entirely to have a form of tactical advantage against other players. There wasn't any meta you had to follow to get the upper hand with literally zero skill required by equipping a gun that just does everything for you due to balancing issues. You were forced to learn that shit and put effort into becoming good at the game, which is probably why arena shooters fell off now that I think about it. They required skill and effort, which is something a lot of multiplayer fans don't like too much anymore.
Can't do it. I can't take this shit no more, man.
Every map within Ghostware is so finely crafted, with multiple different paths you can take to flank enemies and do objectives. You can even explore these in your free time to find collectibles if you really want to. What is that? The objectives within the map are the same types you've come to know and love from the old arena shooters, like free-for-all, team deathmatch, capture the flag, and of course we can't forget good old capture point. What the fuck is going on?
Yeah, that should work alright. Now, as for you... Engaging hostile at 30% load.
Okay, I haven't been entirely truthful with you all. There's a lot more to this game than just arena shooter stuff. You're actually playing as a ghost called Molly, whose soul has been trapped within the arena shooter alongside 5 others, and a robot called Rumbletron, who isn't actually a spirit because he's, well, a robot. This cyber purgatory is run by a fella named Wizard, who looks like your average Redditor, and he has an immense amount of nostalgia for arena shooters because during the time period the game takes place in, the genre had completely fallen off, which is why Wizard made this cyber purgatory. And within it, all of the spirits are forced to fight in these arena shooters for his entertainment. There's a hacker that takes control of the robot character's body a bit into the game, and he fights all the spirits one by one to see who is good enough to help him, with us being the only only ones who were able to beat his boss fight. The hacker is working against the wizard, and he knows that the cyber purgatory isn't completely finished, and he takes advantage of this. There are times where he puts us into unfinished maps and areas where we'll be utilizing the movement of the game for platforming challenges to get to objectives that will somehow free everyone from this purgatory. What I really like within these areas are the things you need to do to complete tasks. They're all related to the objectives that you'd have to do within the multiplayer maps, like capturing a flag or a point, for example. It's a very interesting concept that quite frankly rotted my brain while I was playing. It was an unexpected mindfuck. There's even a point where your spirit is sent into the real world on a random ass island where shit's starting to overlap, with there even being a flag we need to capture in an open zone we can explore freely and find secrets within. Turning the game into a Metroidvania with different branching paths is honestly kind of insane. A detail I really like is the fact weapons are different within the real world compared to the game world. Not just visually, but with the way they act too, being a completely different version of the same gun. You also can't do any of the gamey movement within the real world too, so you aren't able to double jump anymore. You can still slide half a mile though, so at least we still have that. There's an entire overarching plot in Ghostware which is insane, and I don't think I've played a retro shooter yet with this deep of a narrative. Like, around almost every corner there's some new reveal. I don't want to go too much into spoiler territory, but the main reason as to why the game is happening is because of a company called Galactimax, who ran a sport called Death Game, where convicts were pinned against each other to fight to the death. It was the most watched show during the 1990s, and it was even made into a game which was the first ever arena shooter in the universe. Wizard, who created the cyber purgatory we're playing in, is actually the son of the CEO of Galactimax, growing up with the game and the arena shooter genre. After a few years of Death Game being the most televised show, the government, being the government, decided to put a ban on blood sports, killing off Death Game completely. But Galactimax didn't want Death Game to just perish like that, so they decided to research how they could bring it back without using human beings. They're the ones that found a way to use spirits of dead people who are able to respawn after being killed. And Wizard stole this research to recreate an arena shooter just for the sake of nostalgia and the fact he couldn't let go. Hence why we're trapped in this cyber purgatory. It's such an interesting concept, and I'm glad someone decided to make a more story focused retro FPS rather than it just being a fairly linear level based ordeal. I have no problem with that format. I mean, there's a reason why I love so many of them, but playing something like this is very refreshing for me. It's a very cool experience, and I highly recommend checking it out. I don't actually know how to transition onto the next game, but it's called Reaver and it's really cool. At first glance, looking at Reaver, you're probably thinking, wait, this is just ULTRAKILL. Now get that thought out of your head. Pretend ULTRAKILL doesn't exist, because despite the fact Reaver is obviously heavily inspired by ULTRAKILL, it definitely stands out on its own. And maybe the fact it's so similar to ULTRAKILL, it will get some of the fans to finally play a different game. Reaver is an incredibly fast-paced FPS game, and by fast-paced, I mean it feels like you've snorted a shitload of cocaine while also being on meth and ecstasy. You're on the verge of literally dying, but you're having a good time jumping around like a madman while doing so. Before I talk about the gameplay, I need to talk about the art style, because that's the first thing that stands out. Reaver's art style is very eye-catching. All of your weaponry has this wireframe look to it, and the world has this gothic-esque industrial aesthetic to it. There's all kinds of machinery scattered around like cogs mixed in with these castle-like structures. It's a sick combination and it looks amazing. Oh, and to add on to this, everything within the environment moves to the beat of the music playing in the background. Glad you took notes from one of the best games ever made. May it rest in peace. Okay, now let's talk about the gameplay, and of course, the gunplay. Like I said earlier, the game is incredibly fast. If you slow down for even a second, then you're basically dead. You're bombarded by huge groups of enemies, with new types being dripped in, just as you're getting used to the huge influx of the last ones. Like with Incision and ULTRAKILL, you start Reaver with a lovely revolver that doesn't require a reload, because Reaver understands that the worst part of revolvers are the reload animations, because they take fucking eons to do. Oh, we're still going. Okay, there we go. Oh, and when you land a headshot with this thing, you twirl it around. It's just really satisfying. I love it. There's also a shotgun. It's a double barrel shotgun, and as you can imagine, it's very meaty, so I don't really need to say anything else on that. Every single weapon has an alt fire too. However, there is one weapon's alt fire that I want to highlight here, and that's the assault rifles. At a glance, it just kind of looks like your standard dual wield akimbo mode. But see, you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, because this thing shoots so fast and the recoil is so strong, you can literally use it as a fucking jetpack to keep yourself in the air while raining down bullets on enemies. Do I even need to say any more than this? This shit is genuinely sick, and Reaver is an incredible game that you should definitely check out. But I just gotta let you all know now, as of the making of this video, the game is still in early access, so it's still a work in progress. It's definitely worth checking out though regardless. For all we know, the developer has a bunch of surprises up his sleeve. Now, sleeves are used for arms. What if you were missing one? Just like the main character in Severed Steel! Severed Steel is a very unique FPS. Within it, you play as a lady missing an arm, which makes you wonder, how the hell are you supposed to reload your gun? Is this a Reaver situation where there's just no reload? Well, no. When you run out of ammo, you don't magically regain bullets. Instead, you just lob the empty gun at an enemy and steal the weapon they drop, meaning you'll constantly be changing up your weapons on the fly, which adds so much variety. This constantly keeps every single mission feeling fresh because you have no idea what gun you'll be getting next. You don't exactly have time to stand still and see what each weapon the enemy is holding to know which one to lob your gun at because you're a glass cannon. You die in like 3 shots. Severed Steel has a similar mechanic to the best game ever made, and that of course is bullet time. Unlike the best game ever made, Severed Steel has an extra mechanic that enhances the bullet time, and that is a dive, letting you dodge incoming bullets in slow motion. I literally cannot put into words how nice this game feels to play. There's also wall running and sliding, letting you constantly be on the move within fights. The gameplay gets the certified Proxidist seal of approval. It's very good. At the end of every mission in Severed Steel, you have to get to the orange door to complete the level. That was a dumb transition. Cut your losses, fellas. Respawn are too busy milking Apex Legends, so just buy Get to the Orange Door instead, because it basically plays the exact same as Titanfall 2, and it's the closest we will ever get to a third game within that series. You're gonna have to forgive me for making this section so short, especially my father, because I know he watches my videos, so forgive me, father. As you can already tell, Forgive Me Father is a very unique looking first person shooter. I think this one has my favourite art style. It goes for this comic book look that just looks amazing, and it keeps consistent with its quality throughout the entire game. What I find interesting is it combines this art style with Lovecraftian horror, and it works surprisingly well, which you wouldn't expect considering how fucked up Lovecraftian shit can be. They did a good job at making everything look vibrant and colourful, like a comic book, whilst also being disgusting, gritty, and downright scary at times. The unique elements don't just stop with the art style though. Forgive Me Father actually stars 2 different playable characters who play fairly differently. For starters, we have the priest, who is focused on a slower, more defensive playstyle, making the game overall feel more survival horror-esque, whilst the journalist is fast as fuck, which appeals more to the crack-induced FPS fan, like me. The game also has a revolver that doesn't require reloading. Yeah, this is it's very epic. Although the weaponry as a whole at a first glance doesn't seem all too special. You have your standard stuff like a revolver, shotgun, and a Tommy gun. See, the thing is about these basic ass weapons, these are just the starting versions of them. Because Forgive Me Father has a skill tree, and it's not a boring one you'd find in most games where you just level up tiny stats that are barely noticeable. No, instead this skill tree has a focus on branching paths for upgrading the weaponry. And by upgrade, I mean these things can become monsters. Literally, what the fuck am I holding right now? Some of these paths change the gun completely. You can turn your starting revolver into a mouse, I don't know how to say this one, with a faster fire rate. Your Tommy gun can turn into a laser rifle, and you can even turn your shotgun into an eldritch abomination that you just don't question because at least it gets the job done effectively. It's good shit all around, and I have no idea why I didn't play this game until now. I highly recommend it. Oh, and while you're at it, check out the upcoming sequel, Forgive Me Father 2. It's currently sitting in early access, but from what I've played, it's already a massive improvement over the original, which says a lot. You should be excited for this one, fellas. There you have it, more awesome FPS games that aren't ULTRAKILL, that you should add to your wishlist or hell, even purchase and enjoy for yourself. I'll be putting links to each Steam page down in the description below. Make sure to check out each one. I promise you it will be worth your time, especially if you're a fan of the FPS genre. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and if you enjoyed what you saw today and you want to support the channel, check out my Patreon. On it I post previews for upcoming videos as well as Patreon exclusive content. I plan on doing way more for the Patreon. This is actually just the beginning. Oh, and if you support a bit extra, you get your name at the end of every video, just like this.